Hi, everyone. I'm John Palinkas from the Institute for Digital Transformation, and welcome to our year-end show. This show is actually a continuation of the Leading in the Digital Era from last week, hosted by Rob Field, where he had networking experts Richard Bliss and Leah Bliss on. And I'll put the link in chat, but one of the reasons why you need to go back and watch that show was, here's just one of the tips that Leah gave us. When you create a post in LinkedIn, LinkedIn shows it to about 10% of your connections. But when you comment on a post, LinkedIn shows your comment and the post to 30% of your connections. So when we tell you, please comment, it's to your benefit. You get more exposure from that than you do from just creating a post. At any rate, I put the link in chat, and we suggest you go back and watch the show. You'll see a lot of cool networking tips that we got from Richard and Leah. So the format of this show, very different. What we're going to do is we're going to have clips, recorded clips from all of our fellows giving their networking tip. What do they consider a great networking tip? And we'll bring other fellows on, and we'll talk about what their tips, what they think of that tip. So why don't we start with doing that right now? Why don't I bring on my colleague and good friend, Jessica Carroll.
Hey there, John. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. For those few people left in the world who don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Jessica Carroll. I am an Institute Fellow, Chief Experience Officer, former CIO, and just love anything around transformation, particularly anything related to where the customer fits into that. So looking forward to talking a little bit about how we get our insights out and networking and getting our relationship strong and all that good stuff today.
Sounds good. So why don't we kick it off by starting with my video, which you haven't seen.
I know, I'm excited.
Oh yeah, you've known me for so long. I'm almost scared to have you review this, but let's talk about what that video is and see what happens. Hi, I'm John Palinkas, Managing Partner at the Institute for Digital Transformation. I'm also the editor of our journal and producer of our video shows. In these roles, I receive a lot of LinkedIn connection requests. But here's the thing, I decline most of them. Now you're probably wondering, how is that a networking strategy? And for a long time, I didn't think it was. But then I realized the key to successful networking is understanding why you're networking in the first place. If your goal is to build a massive following, then yes, accepting every request makes sense. But my goal is different. I use LinkedIn to maintain meaningful connections with people that I've met or worked with over time. So when I get requests from strangers pitching products or services, I decline. You'd think this approach would limit my reach, but earlier this year, I was surprised when LinkedIn chose me as one of their top voices for North America. Why? Because LinkedIn values quality interactions over sheer numbers of connections. My network, built on genuine relationships, generates far more meaningful engagement than networks 3 or 4 times its size. So here's my networking tip. Define your purpose. Let that guide your strategy and build a network that works for you. All right, so how did I do?
I'd love to tease you, but let's get to the interesting stuff as opposed to that. I'll get you later. Actually, I love this concept because I too believe that LinkedIn is for creating deep connections as opposed to it's just a place to put your resume and get people to, give you lots of likes on stuff. And I agree with you. I mean, I remember, early on when I joined LinkedIn, obviously I was just reaching out to everybody I knew and making connections as I was getting my sort of brand started. But over time, and I'm sure everybody listening in has this, where you just get inundated with these requests to connect. And the temptation is exactly what you said, John. You feel like, hey, I should say yes. But I think taking a pause and thinking of it, and I sort of think of it this way, if this person is connecting with me, number one, they should send me a message and explain why. Like, it's great that you want to connect, but what are we going to do about it? And I always, if I'm going to connect with someone, I always ask them, great, let's connect, but let's set up time for a call and get to know each other. Because other than that, it's just a number. So I really do support you in this one. I do believe very much in it's got to be meaningful. And if you're not prepared to put the time in to have that relationship with each other, why are we connecting in the first place?
You know, it's funny. Also from last week's show, Richard Bliss said something very relevant. He said, because someone in the chat said, I get all these in-mail requests to connect. And Richard said, well, you have to realize they're paying for that. And when you accept it, you're rewarding them for telling you, yes, go ahead and spam me. So whenever I get any of those, I simply report them and block them, because that way they don't get their money back. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, here's a professional networking expert telling me do that. And I've always felt guilty about it. So I'm going to start doing that now.
No, I think that's good advice, actually. And, you know, I would actually, for people who are trying to kind of connect from a sales perspective, I would say it's better to go at it this way. You know, reach out to a person and explain why you want to make the connection, and get to know the person first before you jump in on what product or service you're trying to sell.
Sounds good. I'll tell you what, we have another good friend of ours we've known for a long time who could not be here. She's traveling somewhere in the air today, is Whynde Kuehn. What do you say we take a look at Whynde's video and see what she has to say?
Let's do it.
Hello and happy holidays. I'm Whynde Kuehn, a fellow with the Institute for Digital Transformation. My networking tip is to share something personal. For example, I often share this strategy to execution card that you see here with people when we meet. For example, it was many years ago now that dear colleague and friend Robert Field with the Institute and I huddled over a card just like this and realized that we shared many of the same passions and perspectives. Especially in our digital world, I think having something physical and something that represents you is very memorable and helps to create connection. So I hope that tip was helpful, and I wish you a very happy holiday season and all the best in the new year.
So what do you think?
Well, there's two things with what Whynde said, by the way. I mean, she's just a wonderful person. And if you're not following her, for those of you that are listening in today, you should follow her. She's got a lot of great insights. But the two things that I thought were interesting were the physical and the physical on a page. Like, this is my thought on a page. And I have done that on the business side, less on the personal side in my career. And I have found that carrying around my one pager and having it ready at all times really help for visualizing my listener to the point I'm trying to make. So I think that's actually a super tip. And the second thing that I took away from that is on the personal side. Now, I have always had, you know this, a very,
I was just going to bring that up. Go ahead, say it.
I have a very hard time sharing the personal side of who I am in my professional life. Very difficult time. And
but let's be honest, the last 3 articles you wrote for us were all about personal experiences.
They were.
And what was the reaction you got to that?
I have never had so many people comment and reach out to me than those last 3 articles. So yes, I'm trying to break through the shell. You guys are wearing me down, but I actually think it's great advice, because we are all humans underneath who we, put out there as our professional person. So I think that it's important. It's a great way to get back to that connection that you were talking about in your tip.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that it's funny when I'm editing, even with articles, I would tell people, put something personal in there. It doesn't have to be deeply personal, but give a personal story. Give something that people can relate to. Because if you have a personal story in there, it humanizes them, humanizes the article. And it's funny, Steph couldn't be here today, but she wrote an article, and there's a term in there called breaking the fourth wall. And it's what she does. Yeah, most people have never heard of it. What it basically is, it started a long time ago with actors on stage, and they would literally break out of character and turn and talk to the audience. It's called Breaking the Fourth Wall. And there are a few movies that do that. And there's a few other writers that do that, where they actually break out. What she said in the middle of hers was, yeah, I know, you're thinking, what am I doing going on a trip with a kid? And I check all my luggage, stuff like that. So, but it's an interesting way also to draw people in, because it's a very unusual writing technique. So, all right, on that happy note, I'm going to return to the control room, and I'll let you bring out somebody else.
Oh, yes. Let's bring on our next guest, one of my favorite colleagues. We've done some work together, Mr. Ray Sheen.
Hi, Jessica. Happy holidays. Good to see you again.
You too.
Let's see, I'm supposed to quickly introduce myself. I'm also a fellow here at the Institute. I've been, now, I'm different from some of the other fellows. I am an engineer, as in, classic mechanical, electrical engineering stuff. But I will say that I've been through the 12-step program, and I try to make it to my support group meetings on a regular basis. I'm a recovering engineer, doing much better now, thank you. But with that, this whole networking thing is an interesting aspect for me of reaching out and touching other people. I'm far more comfortable with numbers than I am with people. But let's talk about this some. I think we've got one of your videos coming up next, don't we?
I think we got to listen to me again. So let's do it and get it over with.
I am Jessica Carroll, Chief Experience Officer and Institute Fellow. Successful networking can be broken down into a repeatable formula that I call your networking runbook. Step number 1, seek to connect. Of course, this means get to know someone new. Look, I know it can be uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me too. A number of years ago, I joined a professional organization with this very purpose in mind. I had a goal that at every meeting, I would leave there with at least 2 new connections. In time, they became a room full of supportive colleagues and friends. Number 2, be clear on your motive. The point is to learn and give back. One of the mistakes that I see people make all the time is to go right in with and ask for help. For example, hey, can you help me get a job? You don't need to do that. Number 3, listen. Look, this is my toughest one. However, ask good questions and pay attention. 4, give it time. Being busy is not an excuse. We're all busy. Grab 15 minutes on a call. Go get some coffee or lunch. Do it in person or at least virtually. Emails don't qualify. And number 5, care. Put yourself aside and realize this person is just as special as you believe you are. They have aspirations and struggles and great stories, just as we all do. And there you have it, your networking runbook.
So, of course, I had to turn this into something we could execute. You just needed to operationalize it. I can't get that out of my brain. But I'm interested in what you think.
Well, I like your 5 steps. All 5 of them I think are really good. One that jumped out to me in particular was listen. And that's because too often when I'm in a crowd, in with people, folks are so interested in presenting their idea, their broadcasting. I like to say they're spending too much time in the broadcast mode and not enough in the receive mode. And they just don't listen. I know I can be guilty of that too, but that is so difficult many times for us to step back and really listen, because that then sets you up for your 5th one, care. If I'm listening, then I can care. Well, when I'm only interested in talking about my stuff, I'm not going to listen, and I'm not really going to care about you because I don't know anything about you.
Yeah, and it seems like such an obvious thing, but I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I find it really difficult. It's a discipline that I have been really focused on for the last, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it is I think it's a challenge for any of us to be comfortable enough with who we are that we can listen to find out who someone else is. And
Exactly.
it's really, in many ways, it's a mark of maturity to be able to say, I'm okay with where I am. I can spend time to find out where you are, what's important to you, and why that's important to you.
And I will, just to end it on this note, I will say that every time that I've done that, and specifically with networking, so jumping on phone calls, getting to meet people, I always start with them. I am listening, I'm taking notes, and without me having to try, inevitably the other person always turns around and asks not only about you, but how they can be helpful to you. If you just put yourself aside first, the goodness always kind of circles back. So it does work.
It does work. I will say that I haven't always had that experience of what you said, that where they always turn around. But when they don't turn around and ask you questions, after a couple of calls or a couple of interactions, I pretty quickly decide this is not someone I need to have in my circle.
Yeah,
Because they are only taking, they're not giving, it's not really an interaction. It's not an exchange of ideas or anything else. So that really kind of shuts it down if they don't listen, if they don't ever engage in that regard.
good advice. Well, I think we have another fellow who's going to give us some tips. So let's take a look.
Okay.
Sure. My name is 𝗏𝗶𝗶𝗆, and I am an Institute Fellow. I'm the Manager Partner for 𝗐𝗐𝗔 Partners and the CEO of 𝗗𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗏 Therapeutics. You know, people often assume I'm some kind of a networking wizard because I truly do have a pretty awesome network. But here's the truth. I'm not really a natural networker at all. Given the choice, I'd much rather hang out with folks I already know and trust than mingle with a bunch of strangers. So what's my secret? Well, it boils down to two simple things. First, whenever someone asks for my help, whether it's from my network or outside, if I can, I do my best to lend a hand. No strings attached. I never expect anything in return. It's just about living my personal philosophy of being genuinely helpful. Second, and this may surprise some people, and when I do reach out to my network for something, it's rarely for my own benefit. Most of the times, I'm just connecting people or looking for help for someone else. Those are the two approaches that have been the cornerstone of building my network. It's not about collecting business cards or making small talk at events. It's about building real relationships based on support and trust. So if you want to build a strong network, focus on giving rather than taking. Be the person that others can count on, and you'll find your network growing naturally. No forced schmoozing required.
I like that closing. No false schmoozing required.
That's right.
I think Chuck is just sharing some of the stuff we just talked about too. You know, just give and be sincere and genuine. And I do believe that good things will happen. But to your point, if they don't, that's not the right relationship. So I thought that was excellent.
One of the things he mentioned also that caught my attention, he talked about a networking event of sharing business cards. And I was thinking, I haven't shared business cards much in a long time, except last week I was at an event where suddenly people were asking me for cards. I ran out of cards. I don't even carry them around anymore. I only had 2 cards on me, and I had a half a dozen people asking. So I'm writing on Post-it notes because they wanted to have an email, or they're typing it right into their phone. It's to his point, when you're giving something that's valuable to others, when you're in that giving mode, that's going to build the connection rather than when you're in the taking mode.
And the last thing I'll say too is I love his opener where, you know, the tendency is we want to sit with people we know, but you actually have to put yourself in a position where you're sitting with people you don't. And it's not easy. And that's very rare for someone to feel comfortable doing that, but it's really important to push yourself.
Yeah, I've a phrase I'll often use when I'm in a room and emceeing. I'll tell folks, everyone needs to sit with someone you don't know. If you know everyone, then sit with someone you don't like, and build a friendship.
Well, I think we've got another fellow. I think we've got Steph coming up. So let's take a look.
Hey there, my friend. This is Stefanie Krievins, president of the Change Architects and a fellow here at the Institute for Digital Transformation. My networking tip is ask for help. As successful leaders, if we do not ask for help, we are training others to either take from our success, or we're creating a perception of aloofness, detachment, individuality that we don't need others. And human relationships rely on connection and reciprocity. And so the next time you feel yourself stuck, Reach out to your network, ask for help for your next new hire, or finding a consultant, or noodling on a business challenge that is in front of you. Because that connection that you build by asking for help endears others to you, which means that it's more likely that they're going to come to you asking for help as well, which builds your network, strengthens your relationship, and makes it more likely that you can do powerful work with other folk.
What do you think of that?
That
Yes.
was a contrast from what Chuck said, because Chuck said,
Yeah.
don't ask for help, and Steph is
Yep.
saying, ask for help.
But I actually, I'm going to take it on a slightly different context than literally there. And I'm going to use a story too. One of my great colleagues had come to me a number of years ago. He had just lost his job, and he is a connector. Lots and lots of people know this person, and he's a wonderful human and a giver. And he was describing to me, you know, where he was sitting with this position that he was in out of work, and how does he, like, what is the next step? And I was trying to encourage him to actually go not ask for help, but do the reach out in the network with your connections, let people know where you are. I would say not directly asking, hey, can you help me get a job? More of, look, I'm in this situation. I'd love any advice that you have on how to kind of get myself through it. And my point to him was, if you approach it in that way, you're not really directly saying, give me some help. You're saying, I trust you. Do you have a way to give me what I need, the juice I need to make my next move? And people will always, if they care about you, which in your network, most of them do, then you get the insights and help that you need.
Well, that's great advice. And I absolutely agree that you don't necessarily ask like you're asking for help. I'm trying to mooch off of you. I'm trying to take from you. But I need advice. I'm in a position that's unusual. I've not been here before. Maybe some of you have. Can you give me some advice? Give me some guidance? I think asking for wisdom and advice is definitely a smart ask. None of us know everything. And we should be asking for advice when we're in a situation that's unusual for us.
Agreed. Well, listen, I have been hogging up the screen, so I'm going to take an exit and turn the rest of the program over to you and the other fellows. So it's been a joy. And I must say to not only you, Ray, but everybody that's listening in, have a very, very, very happy holiday.
Thank you, Jessica. You too. Okay, next, I'd like to bring on a good friend of mine that I've worked with some, Hans Gillior. Hans, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. My name is Hans Gillior, and I'm an Institute Fellow calling in from Stockholm, Sweden. So we crossed Atlantic here to Europe. And I am a senior advisor and consultant at B3 Business Transformation, loving transformation and how people work in that space. So I'm really happy to be here and talk about networking. It's going to be great.
Okay, Hans, I think we're going to start off with a video of mine, so I'm interested to see what you have to say about this.
Yes, definitely.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ray Sheen. Happy holidays. My networking tip is not something for growing your network by 5,000 or 500,000. What I want to focus on is what you're actually doing on the network. Are you providing value, or are you draining from the people on your network? And that's my recommendation for you, my tip. Be a person who adds value. Provide content, provide help to people with problems. Be an asset to the network. Don't look at the network as something that you need to be mining in order to pull from, but rather look at it as a place where you can place content, where you can show how you contribute value to others on your network. Be an asset for them. That's my recommendation. Well, I hope you have a happy holidays and a great new year. Bye now. So Hans, what do you think?
I think it was a beautiful comment and advice on networking. I really like the idea of bringing some sort of value to the networking itself, because it is some kind of partnership. You're starting to create a relationship in some way, and you want to be the person, I guess, that you yourself want to network with.
Right.
And I think that you capture that very much about giving and not only receiving. And what I also like about it is that you're showing that it's about being human in the relationship and not being driven by more business or sales or whatever, but showing a human face in that networking, which I think is great.
Yeah, in that regard, it builds on some of the other tips we've already heard and already had a chance to hear from other fellows about. Is that really connecting with someone in a way that is at a personal level and as I said, add value, but as others have said, provide help, be supportive.
Yeah.
All of those,
Yeah.
I think, are that makes the network strong, and that's what we're really trying to do, is have a strong network, not just one that's 50 miles wide and an inch deep. I'd rather have one that's only a mile wide and 50 feet deep, or I'm sorry,
Yeah.
50 meters in your case.
Definitely. Yeah, but definitely, I totally agree, because in the end, when the question is more or less, why do we have a network? Why do we have relationships in the end? And it's about that together we can create much more than we can do individually. And
You're right. Well, let's bring in another one. I think we have someone else coming on now. Is this Patti?
Hi, I'm Patti Blackstaffe, CEO and Executive Advisor at 𝗗𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗀𝗀 and a fellow at the Institute for Digital Transformation. I'm happy to share my little networking tip with you today, one that's really personally helped me build meaningful, long-term professional connections. Several years ago, I reluctantly went to a networking event alone. I don't like to go alone. It's not my favorite thing to do, and I was a bit self-conscious. And when I spotted another person who seemed to be on their own and to relieve my discomfort, I approached them with, "May I join you at this table?" That simple gesture led to a conversation where they were pouring their energy into a quest, and I was so curious. That person happened to be a reasonably high-profile executive. After using a few other networking skills, that one encounter eventually led to opportunities for speaking, facilitating, collaborating. Later, they invited me to join advisory groups. They introduced me to an organization seeking a technology leadership advisor. My top tip is to go to those events solo. Find someone else who's alone and break the ice. Ask them deeper, unusual questions like, what's using up your most productive energy these days? Or if you had no roadblocks, where would you take this project? Then consider who you can introduce them to. Even if it's unrelated to business, it's about creating value, right? So afterward, then here's the big tip. Meet for coffee or lunch, learn more, reconnect in 3 to 6 months, find out how they're progressing, add them to your LinkedIn, help them out, show genuine interest, and continue to offer introductions that you think might be helpful.
Well, Patti had some real good advice there too. I liked what she said there in terms of asking them an interesting question, asking them a deeper question. It's not just the surface, how's the weather, but really asking them something so that you understand where they're coming from. What did you take away from that, Hans?
It was two things that I really took away from that. The first one was her almost a final phrase that she said: show genuine interest in what they do. And I think that's super important. Show the human side and show interest in the other person itself. And I think that is the basis for networking, not starting with how can we make business or how can I sell this to you, but rather show interest in them as a person. And the other thing was that when she came to the table and asked about if she can join, showing a little bit about not a weakness, but showing that she's a person that is interested in them, what they are talking about, showing that the vulnerability in that moment. And I think that is beautiful.
Right. It really does. It gives you a whole different kind of foundation on which to build the relationship, much more so than just we've done business together.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Hans, I'm here in the States. You're in Stockholm. Let's go across the world to bring in somebody else.
Hi, I'm Rey Lugtu, CEO of Foundry Workhorse based in the Philippines and a fellow at the Institute for Digital Transformation. My tip for making your professional networking more enriching involves attending professional networking events, such as professional organization meetings or conferences. When attending such events, I try to meet as many people as possible during the break. I do this by starting at the middle of the venue, exchanging contacts and engaging in short conversations. Then move clockwise, moving outwards and meeting people in the process until I finish the perimeter of the venue. In that way, I maximize the number of people I meet. So remember, in professional networking, apply the clockwise outward movement to maximize the number of people you meet.
Wow, this was something this is for me. That get that engineering element in there.
Yes.
Start in the center, go clockwise. I can really work with this.
Yes,
But
yes.
it's an interesting approach of how to make sure you really do cover the whole room
Yeah.
and not get locked in. I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but I know that I've been at events where I'm locked into one corner. I never see anybody else. I get buried, and shame on me for that.
Yes, definitely. I think it was a beautiful thing, and what really stuck to me was that he started saying that having some sort of message or thoughts that he was presenting in some way, and I think that's very important, that you stand for something. This is what makes me interesting in that you can build on, and then you can start doing the networking itself.
The networking events. I don't know if you attend those very often. I have typically been somewhat uncomfortable at those. I like going to an event. There's a purpose. There's a meeting, whatever. But I know that at least here where I live, there's it seems like every week there's a networking event in town that I could go to. Is that something that you have found to be valuable or do you attend those kinds of things?
Not very much, actually. I think it's so much easier to have rather have a lunch where you are one-on-one talking about things. I think it's much easier to build a personal relationship. I feel also a little bit uncomfortable with these huge network events. And there's a saying, I'm Swedish, and there's a saying that Swedes can spot another uncomfortable Swede in any sort of conference and connect with them.
Well, I'm not Swedish, but on that, I will step aside now and let someone else come in, and you can. I don't think they're Swedish either, but you can have a discussion with them. So
Yes.
I've enjoyed talking with you, Hans. Good to see you again, and
Yes,
hope you have a great new year.
Same to you. Same to you. So it's my biggest pleasure to introduce Nita Sanger, and we are both fellows of the Institute, and I'm so happy to work with you. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, Hans. Thank you. So I am also a fellow of the Institute, but I'm also the CEO of Idea Innovate Consulting, and I focus on growth strategies, so helping companies grow their business, and also doing digital transformation to optimize their operations. So I'm very excited to be here and see your video, Hans.
Yes, I'm a little bit scared about this, but let's go.
Hi, this is Hans Gillior from Stockholm, Sweden, part of the Institute for Digital Transformation. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about networking. How do you succeed with networking? And what is the key things you need to do? For me, networking is all about trust and credibility in some way, and that you give something to the network that is valuable for other people. So they believe that together, 1 + 1 will be 3, that we can create more together than we can do individually. And that is a foundation for the networking itself, because then you can build something really strong and prosperous with that. I am approached often by people who want to network and partner up and so on, but most of the time it doesn't work because of difference in mindset, and they don't see that they had to contribute to that, and they don't really believe in the trust part. So trust, credibility, and giving something to the networks. That's my point. Good luck. Bye.
So I love the video because in some ways, And it's very interesting because as you were talking about this, you're actually, all of us are moving beyond just doing digital kind of interactions. It's that human interaction and saying build trust. To me, that was the most valuable piece of it, because to make it really valuable, that's what's going to make the difference, where you form a genuine connection that goes beyond like, I'm just trying to collect your card and then just connect with you because I want to increase my social network. So I really did like that.
Yeah, because I think it's important when you do networking is to show the human side and not only the professional side, and therefore sharing your own views or your own thoughts and ideas and so on, something personal, as someone said before. So very much building trust, that you can trust me when you have problems, and I can trust you when vice versa, and so on. So I think that is the starting point for that.
Agreed. And I think I'm starting to see that common theme, which a lot of our fellows have been kind of saying, that make it meaningful, make it count. So just don't make it into a numbers game. Form genuine connections where you help others and then they help you, but together you're sort of like bigger than the sum of the parts, which is kind of what you had mentioned. So I think I really like that.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's time for me to leave. I've been hogging the screen for quite some time now, and I will exit, and I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God Jul och Gott Nytt År. And have a terrific season holiday.
All right. Bye, Hans. Hi. So now I'd like to welcome Kathryn Lancioni. Kathryn, very nice to have you here.
Nice to see you, Nita. How are you?
Good. So would you like to sort of start by introducing yourself?
Sure. Let me get my camera good here. I'm Kathryn Lancioni, and I am a college professor at Rutgers University, where I teach communication, specifically public speaking. And I'm also the president and founder of a company called Presenting Perfection, where we help individuals of all ages become better, successful, and most importantly, confident speakers. We work with individuals in person and virtually, of course, ranging in age, I always say from 8 to 108, but I've had people that are 8. I've not yet had anybody 108, but if there's somebody out there that is close to that age who would like to work with me, that's fabulous. Most important to this conversation, I'm a fellow, I think one of the newer fellows with the Institute.
Great. So I think now we're going to watch the video of Nora Osman, who's a wonderful person.
Hi, everyone. This is Nora Osman wishing you happy holidays. And unfortunately, I couldn't join you today as I'm traveling, but I did want to share my networking tip with you. This is going to be a little bit different than the tips that you receive from your fellows who are on this call. But what I do when I join others at a dinner party, and I don't know a lot of people at that table, I ask them a very simple question. I ask, if you were stranded on an island with no food, but you can have 5 foods, infinitely have those 5 foods. Don't ask how they get delivered. Don't ask how often they get replenished, and no water is involved. What would those 5 foods be? And let me tell you, it is one of the most amazing exchanges that you can have when you start the conversation talking about something as important as food. Definitely try it. You will learn so much. Have a great one.
So what I liked about her video, in some way, she's asking, first, obviously, we know she's very passionate about food and, you know, what you put into your body. But what I did like was sometimes you're asking a provocative question. And it's provocative because it's getting you to think, and you'll actually get when people share what they think is, you know, what they want and what they like, it gives you so much more insights into them. So that's kind of what I really like, because asking a question that gets people to think beyond just sort of like, what's the weather like, etc.
Right.
But we'd love to get your thoughts and reactions, Kathryn.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. You know, I did something similar last year on LinkedIn, asking people what they love about their jobs. And the reaction, the reaction was fascinating, because people commented to me, oh my God, we really want to talk to you about this, because so often the topic is, what don't you like about your job? Or what if you could, what would you change about your job? But asking people what they either love about their jobs or love about what they do was a really obviously positive way of looking at the whole professional, you know, work experience. And what was nice about it was that, to your point, Nita, it got people thinking and talking in a really genuine way. It was, all extemporaneous. It wasn't scripted. Like, it was just from the heart. And I think that that's so incredibly important when it comes to networking, is sometimes we find that we connect with people not because of who they are and what they do, but because of some hobby they have, or some sort of passion that they have, or some sort of curiosity that they have. And it's that, little detail that comes out in a conversation that can lead to a really wonderful business relationship, which I find to be so fascinating.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more, because it's getting beyond like the surface conversations that we have into something that's real, tangible, and that forms that connection.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
So I think my video is going to be playing next. I would love to get your reactions after that.
Perfect.
While networking, the one thing that I've found to be most effective has been face-to-face meetings. I know that for someone who's involved in digital transformation, for me to say that is all a little bit like being blasphemous. I do recognize that with the, remote working and the increasing use of technologies and tools such as Teams and Zoom, that, face-to-face meetings are a declining art. But the one thing that I found that actually helped me was that when I had face-to-face meeting with either somebody that was meeting new, a client, or was like prospecting, what I found this to be very effective was because it helped me form a connection with the client, build trust, and even generate some of my most interesting ideas doing that. Also, a face-to-face meeting helped me sort of identify and sort of notice nonverbal cues, issues, and concerns that I might have missed had I not actually been in the meeting with the client or with the individual. But what I found was that once I was able to establish that relationship and trust, then being able to use digital tools to sort of manage the relationship most effectively was very useful. So what I would like to end with saying is that the one tip, which is sometimes maybe considered like an art that we're losing, is face-to-face meetings, because they're really, really important in building relationships and trust, which is incredibly important in some of the work that we do, and actually in all the work that we do. Thank you.
Nita, I'm such a big believer in face-to-face meetings. Words cannot describe. So, here's where I go academic on everybody. Nonverbal communication, which is everything but the words, right? Counts for 93% of communication. So, it's one thing on a Zoom screen, but Steve, if you're on a Zoom screen, you still can't see everyone's nonverbal cues. So a face-to-face meeting, be it, across a conference table, in a restaurant, at a company Christmas party, face-to-face conversations are so incredibly important. And it can go such a long way in, sort of starting to develop that relationship, building that relationship, and even curating that relationship over time. And we all got so lazy during COVID,
Yes.
where we sat at home with our coffee or our cocktail and, met people, talk people over Zoom or whatever. And now we got to get out and go out and meet people. And, like you, Nita, I'm in New York Metro, and there are some nights where I'm just like, oh, the last thing I want to do is go into the city and go to an event in person. But I said this to so many people. Every time I do it,
Yes.
I meet somebody interesting, or I have a conversation that's fascinating. And so for me, it's there's always motivation, but that motivation is so worth it, because you meet amazing people, and also you get to know people in a way that you can't do over a Zoom screen.
And it's so rewarding, because remember, like when John, you, me, and like Carroll met, Jessica met, sorry, we actually came up with some interesting ideas of what we want to do. So that's what I find, that when you're actually able to get together, you'll be playing off each other's energies. You learn something new. I learned about all your travels. I learned about Jessica's travels. And so you learned so many interesting things. And obviously John was like wonderful. So I think that's the part that which we would not have got if we were just doing Zoom meetings.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, there's absolutely that, the luncheon's a wonderful example, because you have free flow conversation.
Yes.
Everything that is web-based tends to be agenda driven. And
Yes.
people tend to go from, pre-planned topic to topic to topic. But when you're at a table and you're just talking across the table, and one group's having their chat and the other one's having theirs, you interact, and it is in a way that you cannot do on a mediated platform. So I think it's so important to get out and go and meet people in person.
Absolutely. So with that, what I wanted to do was to wish everybody happy holidays, because I'm going to be exiting from here. And so happy holidays to all the listeners. Happy holidays to you, Kathryn. And I
Thank
will
you.
take your leave. Take care. Bye.
Excellent. And I think now I'm going to have Frank joining me, Dr. Frank Granito, who is one of my most favorite people on the planet. Because not only is he a cook, and not only does he love food, but Frank, you just have so many amazing interests. And every time you and I are on a call together, we always go overtime because we're always talking about the most unpredictable of things.
That is true, Catarina.
Grazie.
Prego. Buongiorno. I appreciate that. John Palinkas, who you saw earlier, always calls me the last Renaissance person. I won't say man. I'm last Renaissance person. We could get into all of that, but yes, I am. You brought it up. I am a trained professional chef in my other life. So food is a big deal. And Nora's thing, her tip hit me. Like, what 5 foods would you take on your desert island if you were stranded? I'm definitely using that, because now I can bridge two professions, so to speak. So thanks a lot. So are we going to hear from you now?
You're gonna hear from me. I know it's kind of weird to watch yourself, but
it is, isn't it?
Not something I like to do, but here it'll be. And I think what my comments will dovetail nicely with what Nita and what everyone else has been saying about this in-person networking stuff. So let's see it. Hey everyone, it's Kathryn Lancioni with my networking tip for 2024 and 2025. Think about networking as an opportunity to really meet new people, expand your network, and build your brand. Pick events that are strategically relevant to your profession, your career, or what you're interested in doing. When you go to an event, think about what's your goal, what's your why. Why are you going? Who do you hope to meet? And what do you want the outcome to be? Go into the networking event with things that you're prepared to share about yourself. Don't talk about stuff that you're uncomfortable with. Only talk about the things that you're proud of and that you think are relevant to the community that you'll be speaking to. At the event, find people that look welcoming when you walk into that room, not ones that look closed off. And most importantly, have a great time.
Okay. So Kathryn, I'm gonna step on you here because your tip of, like, I heard, like, volunteer for an event. So I had the opportunity recently to be a guest chef at the culinary school I went to.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I just wanted to do it. It was a course in international cuisine.
Okay.
And I contacted the culinary instructor, and who I stay in touch with all of them still. And I said, when are you doing Italian night in the international cuisine? And he gave me the date. I said, would you like a guest chef to come in? He said, I would love that. The course needs some credibility. So I just went in,
right,
and I helped the next generation of culinary students, culinarians, in the art of Italian cuisine. And it was just so absolutely rewarding. It was just selfless. I mean, I drove 2 hours to do it. I drove 2 hours to come back, and I just absolutely loved being in the kitchen. Well, what ended up happening is they captured video from it, posted it all over social media, tagged me, and all of a sudden I'm exploding on social media. And that was not my intention. It was just a byproduct of it. And I just thought your tip resonated with me so quickly there.
I appreciate that. And I guess John wants me to mention that I did record that video in London. I was there for work over the weekend. And Frank, I've got to tell you, I went to a place in Copenhagen, thin slice of Wagyu beef over an arancini.
Really?
Yes.
In Copenhagen.
In Copenhagen at a restaurant called 𝗗𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗀. If anyone's in Copenhagen, go. It was one of the best meals I've ever had.
Yeah.
That was one of the courses, and that was truly probably top 3 things I've ever tasted. It was
Amazing.
beyond.
I could talk food. I could give you the history of arancini. Briefly, arancini is basically because it looks like oranges. So never underestimate the resourcefulness of an Italian chef. You round it and fry it, and it looks like an orange. So in Italian, orange is arancino.
Oh, there you
So the fried rice balls of leftover risotto are arancini, as in oranges. But we do
have to get back to the videos.
We have to get back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yes. Okay. And I think John, you're playing Aleta's video.
My name is Aleta Jeffress, and I'm the CEO for the National Cybersecurity Center based out of Colorado. I'm also an active member with the Institute for Digital Transformation. My networking tip for you today is to be intentional. Many times we think networking is very informal, but in reality, the more specific you can be, the better it will be for you. So what does that look like? That means look for a specific type of person that you want to network with. Are you looking for a business partner? Are you looking for somebody in a role that maybe you aspire to? Or maybe you're looking for a mentor. In any of those cases, look for those types of people, leverage your existing contacts to perhaps do introductions, or also look for events where those types of people will be. Those might be events or gatherings that you haven't attended in the past. Once you have those conversations, at the end of them, also ask those individuals, who else should I be connected to? More often than not, they're happy to make an introduction, and then you can have another follow-on conversation. So I hope that was helpful, and I wish you all the best in 2025.
I just building on what she said in that, the importance of intention is cannot be underscored. I think, every time you go to a networking event, every time you have a conversation with someone, there needs to be an intent. What's your why? And that's a sentence, it's a question that is posed so frequently, but honestly, it's not posed frequently enough. And if it, after you're figuring out your why, like why are you going? And what do you want to get out of it? And how does it relate to you professionally? How does it relate to your personal brand? So forth and so on.
What struck me out of that, Kathryn, was being intentional, but striking a balance with being genuine.
Yes.
Right. So I have an agenda, and sometimes if you're not genuine, people can actually sense that and say, you got an agenda. Yeah, this is. But so I think it's important to. It's a great tip because you don't want to waste anybody's time, let alone your own. But also balance that with some genuineness. And I think with that, maybe we'll listen to my pearls of wisdom here. Is that correct? Hi, this is Dr. Frank Granito with the Institute for Digital Transformation with my networking tip for 2024 and beyond. This one I just learned from a marketing and advertising executive just recently. And he said, if you want to communicate with somebody or get to know them, find out what they're doing and reach out and tell them that you really liked what they did or admired what they did with some particular customer or thing, and ask them a little bit more about it. You'd be surprised how much they would enjoy coming back to you and explaining that. And then all you have to do is just listen. So, happy holidays and ciao.
I love that. And I think, Frank, when you think about what you said, what was just said about being intentional, what Nora said about asking about the different types of food and people would love to have. And when you go back to mine about kind of, thinking about how you want to share, there's so much there for people to glom onto. And I think, what the reality is that, Gen Z millennials, they really, really want their managers and their bosses to be authentic and to be intentional and to be real. And, but that's not something that necessarily comes naturally to everybody. People are afraid to share their thoughts, and I think that, and share their ideas and share who they are as who they are really. And I think, by asking questions like you just suggested, it people get the opportunity to talk in a way that isn't scripted, that isn't just necessarily about what their job is. They may start off that way, but it could lead into something else. I
Yeah.
think that's so incredibly important for bringing out who we truly are as people and
Yeah.
what really makes us tick.
Well, that networking tip actually worked really, really well for me because I saw somebody, another chef on social media, and I wanted to meet the guy. And my colleague said, see what he's doing and ask him about it.
Right.
And so I looked at it, I said, hey, that was really pretty cool. I messaged him in Instagram.
Right.
I said, that was pretty cool. Da, 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 da. Tell me. And the guy called me.
Oh my gosh.
2 weeks later. And he saw my social media stuff on Instagram and stuff that I do. And he asked me he had a very large, like several hundred person gig that he had to chef for. And he asked me if I was available to help him with that.
Wow.
And I said, well, I'm sorry, I'll be in Italy. But that was an extreme success story. I just reached out to him and he called me. All of a sudden my phone's ringing and I see the caller ID. It's this guy. I said, "Hokey mokey, boom." So that was a real success story. So
that's awesome.
That's
great
cool.
tip. Yeah.
We could summarize this whole the past hour. I would summarize it in being vulnerable, giving back, yes, having a purpose. For the engineers in the room, work your way clockwise. Right, Ray?
That's right.
That was really cool. And the food question was unbelievable. I took some notes, and I don't want to belabor it, but a lot of the discussion had to do with being vulnerable, like Whynde sharing something personal. Steph, ask for help, be vulnerable. There was a couple of other, I guess, Patti, may I join you at this table? Just kind of stepping outside of that. So being vulnerable and exposing yourself to that kind of thing. And I think people see that, people see the genuineness. And I think if I were to summarize some of the themes, that's kind of what I would go with. So thank you all for being here. And John Palinkas is the genius behind all of this production magic that you've been witnessing. So John, thank you very, very much for pulling this all together. It was smooth. And I will embarrass him, as John has given me some of the best professional advice over the years. I've known John for well over a decade, and he has given me some of the best professional advice I've ever gotten, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate all the Institute fellows. You guys are unbelievable. I love talking to people that are smarter than me, and that's
so. Let me tell you the best advice I ever gave him. I'm sorry, I have to do this.
I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Frank had recently completed his doctoral degree, and he was writing like the professor. And I said, Frank, stop being the professor.
I wrote that down in anticipation.
Yeah. Yourself when you write, and
right.
it was just so much better. And that's the theme, I think, of everything here.
Yeah.
That personal connection, that personal, making that connection with people. And it's funny because I'll go back to what I found out. LinkedIn values interactions more than it values sheer numbers. That was really amazing from that show that I found out last week.
Yeah, be
genuine. If you don't mind, I'm going to steal the thunder.
Go right ahead, John. Go right ahead. It's all yours.
So first of all, everyone, bye. Have a great new year. Have fun. And watch the closing video because it's our special announcement.
Don't go away.